and I drank it. I got too excited.
Oh, so you got no drinks
I
with
got
drinks or
water.
nobody?
I got
Okay,
water.
okay. All
I
right.
don't
Well,
come unprepared. I got something to drink.
drinks or nobody with no drinks.
It's Monday, baby. Showtime. We had a great meeting on Saturday.
Oh
A
yeah,
business. We had what we call that a plan
brainstorm session.
session, brainstorm session. We got the great minds together.
Brainstorm visionary session. I was
Still
digging
had
that.
still had time to prepare for my fake debate with Militant Prince.
Word.
That was
Yeah.
that was a
How you
fake
felt
debate.
just leaving that? Like, what was your thoughts? I know everybody was talking stuff. Like, what you felt, man?
What I felt in the moment.
Or yeah, or right after it was done. Like, what was going through your mind? I guess.
I felt like it was irresponsible with the way that the debate stage was set. If we're not taking any more debates unless the person or the moderator is responsible. Period.
Yeah. Also, you think Twan, like the
It
organ,
has to be more organized. It has to be a lot more organized, and two people have to be vetted correctly, so that we don't have these issues of like someone now coming in and is like, yeah, S my, you know what I mean, and then
yeah,
going like, don't talk down to me, start getting crazy, like, bro, I'm not here for that.
yeah, nobody got time for that. But hey,
Yeah. So, anyways, I wanted
what up,
to,
fam?
you know, talk about voter, or voting.
No, I don't want to
Um,
talk about that today, though.
we have to.
Let's do this.
How were you approached with voting when you were like 18? Like, you're on that age now, you're ready to vote. Were you ever like pressured to vote? Was it like told to you? How was that? How did that happen? Walk us through that real quick.
I remember first time I voted. I was 19. It was for Obama. It's the first year I can vote. Um, how was I approached? I don't think it was any discussion. It was just, you know, the deal. It's blue, bro. It was like it was say, why would you even think about voting differently? So I think everybody in our community was like an agreement, an unspoken agreement on voting one side.
Yeah, it's like arbitrary. It's like where you
Yeah, so
live.
it wasn't
You know
like,
where you're
yo,
from.
remember you got to vote Democrat. It's more like because of the conversations, Republicans being racist, Democrats for the people, all these things you hear, they don't really need to tell you who to vote for. You just show up, and everybody in that community, in your community, knows who to vote for. And I'm sure it can happen like that in some conservative spots. I can imagine, right, Macho? Like everybody knows, like, yeah, we vote red around here. But I think in
Yeah.
the inner city is just like there's no discussion about none of it. Like if you're voting red, you must be either like a racist or you're just delusional.
Do you have to know anything about America before you vote?
Yeah, that Republicans are racist.
Oh, that okay.
That's all
Gotcha.
they taught
Gotcha.
me. No, but there's no prerequisite
That's
before
good.
voting. Once you get
I
19, you
never.
just vote.
I had no interest in voting my entire life until right now. I'm 34 years old. I literally had no interest in voting
Yeah,
because one
I don't
thing that
blame you.
I've learned from the hood, one thing I learned from the hood is they don't care about us. So what do I got to vote for them for?
Yeah, I agree.
I've always heard that. It's like, oh, this skepticism was on 20. Like if the bar was at 10, the skepticism was on 20. No one cares. Why should we vote? What's
Hmm.
the big deal? What's the point? And I remember when P. Diddy ran the marathon and he was like, yo, this is the most important vote in
Yeah,
history.
I
Y'all need
remember
to
that
get out of
campaign,
here.
bro.
Yeah, it was get out of here with that. So it's like, a lot of people from the hood are very skeptical, period. Until
Which is
now,
why a
all of a
good
sudden,
campaign too.
you see Jay-Z now rubbing shoulders with Obama.
Hmm.
You're like, oh, okay, voting matters now. All these years, he kept saying, nah, 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 voting don't matter. No,
Hmm.
no, no. F that. You know what I mean? Like all the rappers don't care. All of a sudden, Obama's in the office. Everybody cares now.
Everybody cares.
Everybody and their mother care. Everybody trusts the system all of a sudden.
Hmm.
Everybody believes in the system all of a sudden. I'm like, y'all, really? Are we doing that? So keep it locked right here, y'all. We're going to be talking about voter fraud and propaganda. You don't want to miss this. You're going to be interested at the take that we have today. Thanks for tuning in. All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. This is Drinks with the Nobody again. We're probably on what? What video are we on right now? You
I
know, I
lost
always
count.
keep I always keep losing count, but we need to start like this is episode, just
Oh
kind
yeah,
of like
word. That'd be a good idea
kind of
for
like
people
put
to
a
know.
notch on our belt. Like, look at us. We're big and mighty. Anyways, y'all know what it is. I'm Macho, that's Savory, and you're watching us at Drinks with the Nobody. Today we're talking about voter fraud and the propaganda that goes with it and the conversation in the inner city that doesn't really get talked about, but we see it reflected on our politicians because they glitter, they're like mirrors, and they reflect like what the actual conversation is like, just like, oh, you know we have to fight for their freedom to vote. There's like
Mhm.
people in the inner city don't give a damn, they don't want to vote. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
see you later, like get out of the hood, like we don't want nothing to do with y'all. So we're gonna start it off with a video clip that I have here about that propaganda, and then we're gonna get into a really big, deep topic that Savory and I had a conversation on Saturday about.
And remember those controversial billboards popping up around Cleveland?
They say voter fraud is a felony and went up in low-income neighborhoods, leading some to call them voter intimidation. Well, today they were replaced with a different message. News Channel 5's Dave Arnold has the story.
This is beyond a Cleveland issue. It's a national issue.
After a growing number of complaints that 15
All right, let's take a look at that real quick. Let's analyze that billboard. What you see here, Savory?
So we got voter fraud is a felony, up to 3.5 years, $10,000 fine. If you look in that corner, paid by a private family foundation.
Why
Remember
would
that?
this even be an issue? Why would this be a national issue, as she said?
What, voter fraud you saying in general?
Yeah, like why all of a sudden this sign is really like getting people irked?
Yeah, it's the narrative, the new narrative on voter fraud that you want to focus on in order to rally. Remember, there always has to be something in politics to rally people together. Right? It doesn't have to be
Ah,
true. It doesn't have to be important. It just has to be in your face. So I believe voter fraud,
gotcha.
they're going to use that because of 2016 to push forward, kind of like, hey, we got to fight against this. Hey, we must vote this year because this is the year voter fraud. We can't let this group of people stop us from voting. So it's a way to get people to vote.
If
You
we
know,
know anything about Cleveland, we know it's Democrat run. So
facts.
how in the world is anybody outside of a Cleveland politician going to get their hands on this area right here to put this to intimidate people in the inner city that says like it voter fraud is a felony? So that obviously it's going to ring alarms, right? But then I got some questions here already. I got some
Yeah, I
questions
know you
here.
do, man. Let's play a little more so people can kind of see some of what they did.
signs like this posted on Clear Channel-owned billboards, critics say targeted inner-city neighborhoods by an anonymous advertiser. Today, were replaced with a different message.
Boom. Like let me
Key.
rewind that.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what's key there. By an anonymous sponsor. It's like when you read an article and CNN
Anonymous.
or New York Times tell you there's an anonymous source. The source doesn't exist.
That's
In
what
this
I
case, it
heard.
does exist.
What I heard was somebody said, you feel me? Like nobody said it. How about that?
Yeah.
Nobody said it. But they replaced that sign with voting is a right, not a crime. So on the one hand, it is a felony for voter fraud, right? That's accurate.
Mhm.
But they're classifying that, well, that accurate statement that you're making, putting it here, is intimidation. So let's make sure we remind them that it's a right, not a crime.
Hmm.
Which the original sign, had no question about their ability to vote.
So Macho, let us know let us know your thoughts here, man. You shared with me a little bit. I want the people to
All
hear your
right.
thoughts.
So
Like
just a
break
few
down what
more
you think is
moments.
happening here.
Just a few more moments, and then we'll break it down.
All right, cool.
Replaced with a different message to voters.
I'm very pleased today that we're standing in front of a new billboard.
Yeah, that's right.
That gives people in this community the message that you have the right to vote. And that by exercising your right to vote, you're not committing a crime. You have nothing to be afraid of.
Clear Channel, which was purchased by Bain Capital in 2008, a company founded by Mitt Romney, does have a policy against posting signs without a disclaimer for anonymous advertisers. But the signs were up for days. Neighbors here were not amused.
Right. So the neighbors are going to talk about how this could be, intimidating and validate that and all that whatnot and all that jazz. But where I'm getting at here, folks, and I'm going to get back to that video and then we're going to move to our next segment. And that is this: Bain Capital, which is connected to Mitt Romney during the time where Mitt Romney was running for office. Romney versus Obama in a Democratic city in Cleveland. You think really the Republicans are trying to intimidate your voters there? No, they want them to vote. But they're using the whole idea of they're saying, well, this vote integrity issue has always been a problem with these parties, is what I also realize.
So the breakdown is this sign, Macho. Your thoughts is this is just optics, PR, right? They're trying to orchestrate a whole prep.
They're playing the voters. Yeah, absolutely.
So who put that? If I were to ask you, who you think put that sign? What would you tell
Any
me?
guess as to what party that woman is probably a part of?
I'll take a guess. Democratic Party.
Democratic Party. It's the Democrats. They played this. And they played this very well. They put the sign up initially. They came to the rescue, put up another sign, says, look, boom. No one's making a controversy. No one was saying anything about this. For one, it's an accurate statement. Voter fraud is a felony. Period. The end. Now, I don't know why that sign would go up there. How would it go up there without you knowing?
In your district,
you guys are the
your
politicians.
voters. Yeah, you're the politicians there. Yeah. And again, this is how sleazy politics can get. This is how manipulative,
dirty
these things can get, man. So I won't put it past them. And this is not even like a far-fetched idea, right? I think this, if you realize how corrupt politics can be, you realize that something like this on both sides can happen. And yeah, you brought that up when we were watching it, and I agree, it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. We'll get back to that video. Let's move on to this next segment. So let's get back to this. She has some things or two to say, and then we also have a Democrat representative, a senator, speak out too as well.
Somebody who's sitting on the fence, it might intimidate them, or somebody who think they're a felon and can't vote or something like that.
I would notice the sign every time I walk to the corner store. I live in the senior citizen building over there, and I agree it probably is targeted towards the people who live in this neighborhood and the projects over here, and I think it's a good thing that they're taking it down.
But while this 55th Street sign had a direct message for voters, this one on Woodland Avenue very quickly came down, installing another not aimed at voting. But the message by civic leaders was clear.
This is not just a care and a concern for African Americans, Hispanics, poor, and women. This is a concern for all of us, that anybody in a democracy.
Ain't nobody talking about it. No one brought up a concern. Y'all set this up nice. Gina Turner is a Democrat senator, former Democrat senator at this point.
Yeah, Macho, you said something interesting. Hold up. No one brought up a concern. Wow.
No.
You know why that's so powerful? Because this is the job of politicians. They bring up concerns and they force people, or they manipulate people to think that is the important issue at hand. They come up with a concern and then they promise the solution to the problem people were never asking for. It's crazy.
And not bringing the educational awareness of the value of that vote. I'll trust a politician who would educate me on why it's important to vote just in general, not what party to vote for. I'm gonna trust that politician.
For sure.
Because you're not working out for your best interest. You're working out for everyone's interest. You're saying, hey, we need people to vote because it tells us where people lie. It tells us where people stand. Because now we could do better. We work for you guys. But they have to control it. They have to sway the vote. So they'll do dirty tactics like this and what Joe Biden did in Georgia in order to control who they vote for.
Let's see, Joe Byron.
Joe Byron.
The question Where will the institution of the United States Senate stand? Every senator, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, will have to declare where they stand. Not just for the moment, but for the ages. Will you stand against voter suppression? Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer.
Will you stand against it, or yes or no? Who said that this was a problem? They did.
They told you, bro. Why you
They
questioning?
said it was a problem. You see, what is a Republican saying during this time? Voting fraud. What did they say it then? Voting fraud. They have been very consistent. Both parties have been very consistent. This is the way they want to be. This party wants to be, oh, you guys are just trying to suppress. The Republicans are saying, no, you guys are just trying to make fraud. You guys are literally encouraging people to commit fraudulent acts.
So this is all a political game they playing here. This is
Boom,
crazy.
boom, 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 ping
It's a very
pong.
clear example. That's a
Ding
good
dong.
video. It shows us just this political game these politicians are playing.
Yeah,
Will you stand against election subversion?
subversion now.
Yes or no?
With the Grubhub guarantee, get your
Ooh,
food
they
delivered
played
on
us.
time,
Okay.
guaranteed, or they'll make it right. Thank you.
We don't care.
Yeah, but this is crazy because again, they're saying things to catch you on a wave of the problem that you should be concerned about.
Or at least illuminate a problem that you should be. Oh, look, we are the guys on the side of the truth. Look, we're illuminating the problem you should have. Let's get to it.
For democracy.
Hopefully there's no more interruptions.
Yes or no? There's one thing every senator, every American should remember. History has never been kind to those who've sided with voter suppression over voters' rights.
History has never been kind to those of voter suppression. Or you could just lie like the Democrat Party because they were the ones who were what? Affiliated with the KKK.
Who were suppressing blacks from voting.
Voting
And
what?
terrorizing them.
Voting Republican.
Mhm.
They terrorized them so much, Savory, that they ended up voting Democrat and they stood there. And all these people don't even realize what's going on here and what's at stake. And this is why I don't like people who are on the side of the angels. I rather vote integrity. I'll go right because I like that premise.
Mhm.
Let's keep the integrity, and me and you, we agree on that. I'm not all about vote suppression because I'm over here like, who are you talking about? Who's suppressing the vote?
But they're accusing you of doing the very thing they've done, right? So it's kind of this kind of mind game they're doing. That's really the heart of it. They do something, they accuse you right back. So it's like, oh, I did this. No, wait, weren't you the guy that did this, bro? You're the one that was trying to rob yesterday, bro. What are you accusing me of robbery? So it's crazy. Wow.
And it'll even be less kind for those who side with election subversion. So I ask every elected official in America, how do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want?
I'm sorry. He said Martin Luther King or George Wallace. See, there's so many nefarious attributes to that statement. There is the long conversation of what Savory was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, and that was this: don't vote Republican because they're the KKK. You're not gonna fool me with this. Martin Luther King was of what party? The Republican Party. George Wallace was of what party? The Democrat Party. You ain't gonna fool me with that. We have way too much information to be bought in with that lie. But you know what? The people outside in the hood who says, "Oh, I can't trust this," but all of a sudden now do because of Obama, they're gonna vote Democrat. It's another way to continue under the Democratic
And
District 9 strongholds.
And even like Malcolm X said, man, that's the strategy. They pose as your friend and continue to use these same strategies to keep you in the cycle of thinking one way about an issue. Right? All they have to do is they don't have to convince you that you're doing anything. They have to convince you of a problem that they're going to solve and that the other side is out to get you. All right. So again, you asking the question when we opened up the show. All right. and about voting and how we got to that. We didn't know too much, and I think I could speak for Macho as well. It's not that we knew the intricacies of the parties or we voted. We were just like, hey, word around town is Republicans are horrible, Democrats are good, right? And it was an accepted
Mhm.
notion. It required no evidence. It required no logic. It required no proof. It just required the reality of just, hey, this is what they told me. Let's point out a politician, right? So it's just crazy.
Let's point at a politician and let's point at the party. The integrity of the party is that they are racist. They're against you. They're subverting. They're suppressing your right to vote. Where in this country has their right to vote been subverted or suppressed? I have not seen one time in my history, in my life, where a black or brown person has their vote suppressed or subverted.
Hmm.
So what are you telling us? How do people keep falling into this pit hole, Savory? Why do people keep buying
Hmm.
this? And I think we circled around a conversation of criteria. We need to have a stronger
Oh,
criteria set in order to vote.
yeah, you know what, Macho? That's good. Before I go into this next clip, what do you think, right? Like should there be different criteria, right? Should there be a different set of standards, right? And again, Macho and I don't have the full answer to this. We're fleshing this out, brainstorming with each other. But what are some things that you might add to the criteria of voting? Criteria of voting.
I would add age. I think
How
people
old?
should be 30 years old in order to vote.
30?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I didn't expect you to say that. 30. Okay, okay. And why? Give me a quick why on that. I'm
Because
curious.
at
That's
30 years old, you have gone through the phases of these tumultuous times of your life where you're still trying to discover yourself, right? Let's say you go to college, because right now, ever since Obama, everybody's been going to college. So the average person going into the work field is probably around 21, 22 years old. They haven't gotten themselves solidified till after they paid their school loans, which is probably about 26, 27,
interesting.
and they're still going through that tumultuous time, and they probably solidify themselves in their career by 30. They got money
Um,
in the bank, they're married, probably they're married at 30, and they're probably expecting their first kid. Most likely they lean right at that point, but they could lean left. Either or. I
yeah,
still
so
think they'll have more life experience to vote.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Dems would never win another election, said Travis. Yeah, that's a good point too. Me, I wouldn't have that criteria. I'm not with you on that criteria, but I see where you're coming from with that criteria because we vote so early, and I'm an example, and so many people don't know what they're voting for, right? Including myself and other people. I would have more. I would take it up to 21 with a strict criteria. Not because I think you're ready at 21. I think most people are not ready at 21, but I'll take it up to 21 with a criteria of knowing basic knowledge around the foundation of the country, the real history of the parties. All right, this is
Oh,
something that's
okay.
important, right?
What about the universities? They just
What?
got out of the liberal university plantation. So they're gonna
Yeah,
vote. They're
but
gonna vote a
again, but
certain
that's a
way.
whole different thing to tackle. I'm with you though. That's good actually, but I just think that right there, it's like, all right, that's tackling education. But you're right. But again, by 30, or maybe 20, I don't know. But there needs to be some standards, right? I'm
And what
telling
was
you,
the
you didn't
other
even get
standard?
into
You said something like they should know something about their party that they're affiliating. So if they sign up and they say, "Well, I want to be a part of the Democrat Party," okay, when was the Democratic Party started? What
yeah,
we're
but I think you
about?
should know about both parties, right? If you can articulate the real history of both parties, about like key history, whether the you talk about the party switch, the KKK, the key things about each party. Once you know that, yeah, you can ignore it, right? You can make your own decision, but at least we know that you know the history of the parties in the country because that's how we're voting. It's left or right, right? We don't have three
So do
parties.
you think there should be an assessment taken? A basic assessment? Not too difficult, just something like, "Oh, do you know basic things about your
Think it should
constitution?"
be. I think it should be difficult enough that some people fail. Because I
Oh,
don't like
okay. Okay.
not citizenship tests. You see, a citizenship, you could just memorize a few things. I think it should be difficult enough where you actually have to study for a bit and learn some things, right? And we should have liberal and conservative teaching these things, right? Like, so people can hear. Almost like my idea of college that I've said, but I won't go into that now. We should have both professors. A liberal and a conservative in a room would be really good on teaching on certain politics and
Yeah.
seeing them go through those ideas. So it should be hard enough for you to fail, but not difficult enough where you spend years to try to pass. I'm not talking about a bar test like in law school, but like difficult enough where you're like, yo, if I don't read on this for a few months, I'm not going to pass this test.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
I think it's an
Yeah, AOC
atrocity.
didn't even know the 3 branches of government when she was elected, like Travis
No,
said.
she
Yeah,
didn't.
go ahead.
And that's an atrocity because again, how you running for office and you don't even know what you're doing when you get there. You don't even know who
Yeah.
to go to. You don't even know the branches. You don't know how the ordinance and how to conduct yourself. Again,
It's crazy.
I agree. The assessment, this should be a core curriculum in college. It should be one of the core curriculums in college that just like, for example, in Columbia University, you have to be able to be a skilled swimmer, like actually pass a swimming test in order to graduate. It's part of the graduation
And then can you
criteria.
articulate
I'll
also?
take that away and make a voting curriculum.
Yeah. And then aside from the history, and this is something that came to mind now, also a present reality of what each politician is pushing. So maybe a multiple choice of like who's who. So at least we know like what the heck are you voting for? You know what these candidates stand for? Or are you just voting blind? Again, we're throwing ideas out.
Aside
We'll
from
love
the
to flesh
candidate,
this out more.
politicians benefit off our ignorance. So
Yeah,
if we
facts.
know about our government, they won't benefit off our ignorance anymore.
Oh, 1,000%. That's a good way to
That's
put
what
it.
I'm saying. So
let
forget about the
me.
candidate. At least now
Mhm.
we can see it differently. Go ahead.
No, I agree with that. That's a good point. Let me transition to this clip. This is going to be interesting here really quick. This is a short clip, and then we'll go into next.
To usurp state control over regulations involving health, safety, and welfare situations arising in the context of abortion. Ms. Clark, when I hear from you,
Sorry, he's going to get into it, by the way, voting.
your remarks and your testimony, and one of the things that I hear from you is that the average American's concern about the integrity of our elections is somehow based in racism. Fortunately, the facts don't support that premise. Now, progressives have
So now, again, there's the racism narrative. Everything is based on racism now. This is a quick clip right here. Let's keep listening.
tried to label any integrity election protection procedure, such as the laws that have been passed, for example, in Georgia of late, as somehow amounting to racist voter suppression. And yet, these provisions have strong support from voters across the political spectrum, including.
Hold on, I have to stop this. Just got to ask my man Macho something.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. You know how I get with these things sometimes. I'm like, what can you not attach to racism in our country nowadays? What what can you not is the question. Because you can attach every single thing at this point.
One of my notes from my fake debate on Sunday was this. Racism is like your favorite choice dressing, sauce, or marinade that cover the hard to eat vegetables or enhance the flavor of a variety of our foods. You can put it on anything, bro, and get away with it. There's no
Answer my
recourse.
question.
there's no
That's just sad, bro.
something that you have to. There's no consequence to saying racist, only benefit.
Crazy. Let's keep playing this. That's a good point. Wow.
Among minority voters. So can you tell me, Ms. Clark, what exactly is racist about requiring a person to provide a voter ID when participating in the precious, sacred, constitutionally protected process of voting?
Thank you, Senator. So the inquiry is whether or not a particular law is discriminatory, and we won't know that.
All right, here we go. Here we go with the babble, guys. Just hang with me with the babble.
Until we actually look at the facts. We look at
we
the
go, the
particular law at issue. And
What law,
we
though?
look at where is it being applied, and are there racial disparities in terms of who has access, to example, to the limited forms of ID that might be called for by a law. So I think the inquiry is about discriminatory effect and discriminatory purpose.
Didn't even answer the question, by the way. It's a simple question.
Who would have? You see, I'm gonna tell you. She answered it. Well, when you look at the actual things, which, it depends because the buildings are, yes, we have windows, but can you open the window in your building, man? Well, yeah, it depends on what floor answer the question. These people don't answer questions.
They never
You
do.
know,
No
and
matter
again,
no matter what. Yeah.
slight hand she did there. I don't know if you peeped that, but she kind of was alluding towards like it being more difficult for us, bro. Everybody in the hood knew how to get an ID. Everybody in the hood knows how to use computers. Every single person knows the steps. And it's not even about getting it. You have it since an early age, bro. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like this is not so this narrative, man, it's almost like they have license to look at certain areas and group of people lesser than. This is what bothers me about
And the other thing that I was saying off air here, I want to also highlight what Cindy Ann said here, and that is no one should declare a party, research the best
Yes.
candidate. I
Yep.
agree. But there needs to be, just to reiterate my point, there needs to be a clear understanding of what our system is like. Very clear. It should be a core curriculum in college so that people can understand full on as to what they're going to vote for. Vote for whoever you want, but at least politicians won't play on your ignorance. That's number one. Number two, I feel the black vote or the minority vote in this country is something for white people to chew over. And I feel that I'm sick. One, I'm sick and tired of that. I'm just an American, just like everybody else. And you don't need to be on the side of me or who I want to vote for, or swayed me. And depending on where I swayed, your vote changes because you know what? That's where they want to go. So if we have 13% of the population black, and then if you add that, maybe I think it raises up to about 25, 30%, maybe even more than that with brown people as well, right? Hispanics. And depending on where they want to go, if we had a large percentage saying, well, we're leaning, if the poll says we're leaning towards Trump, what are the white liberals going to think? Oh, well, we got to be on their side. Oh, no, they're going to cause the tension that they did in 2020. You know what I'm
It's a
saying?
lot of power in that.
They'll play those dirty games like they did with that billboard. Just as simple. We didn't even show destruction. That is a simple tactic that they would do to cause that. Oh, you can trust us. You can believe in us. We're for you. No, you're not. This wasn't even a
It's so
problem.
crazy, man.
This wasn't even a problem. And I don't want to be looked at as a particular vote. I'm just a vote. I'm okay with just being a vote. No propaganda. Don't play with me. I'm not anything. I'm not, don't pander to me. I'm not a circus animal, right? Just a vote.
And this is interesting here. I want to highlight what Travis said. Did that brave and beautiful black woman just imply that blacks can't get IDs?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful transition to what I want to share because yes, as again, it's a mixture of that what they call the soft bigotry of low expectations and the sleight of hand of literally looking at minorities and different people of color, whatever term you want to use nowadays, looking at us in a certain way where it's like, okay, they're just not capable, right? They're just not, like Shelby Steele put it. This is what's dangerous. This is how Shelby Steele put it. The same people who freed you are now telling you that you need them. So it's almost a dependency thing. But this is what I wanted to share for our Sip on Facts. 46 out of 47 European countries require photo ID to vote. And many, I'm not done, check this out, and many third world countries require voter ID to vote. It's the most common sense thing because it just means that you can identify yourself of living in the country, someone legally, you can't vote twice. So many easy measures to it. And again, 46 out of 47 European countries and even some third world countries. Why? Because they're protecting the integrity of their election. It's just common sense, right? I shouldn't be able to go to Colombia tomorrow and just vote. I shouldn't be able to go to Argentina and just be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to vote. No, but things like this in the U.S. happen, right? You're flooding borders, for example, and I'm not going to get into illegal conversations, but the point is there's a lot of people who should not be able to vote, not because they shouldn't vote, it's because we have laws in place, right? Like if you're a felon, right? Whether you think that should be changed or not, it's a different conversation. Maybe, all right. Maybe it's a chance to prove themselves to vote. But the point is, should we have every single person vote? We have millions of illegals. Is that racist to say
And
we
if they
should
don't,
maybe
and
illegals should vote?
what if they don't have an ID? Why is that such a sticking point for Republicans? You have to have an ID. You have to have an ID. Why? Why is that such a sticking point for Republicans?
Anyone can get an ID, bro.
No, no, no. I'm saying, why do they need one? Why can't I just walk in there and just vote and see you later?
Bro, I spoke about this with Grumpy Jew, bro. We can walk in New York and there's a problem. That means I could have voted in 2 different places in New York with no ID,
Exactly.
no kind of verification.
Because you could keep
That's a big
voting.
problem.
What's
And again,
stopping you from voting
I'm
5
not,
times,
and
6
what's
times,
funny
7
about this,
times?
I'll end with this here is people are
Stupid.
not asking for a list of qualifications before voting. It's ID, my brothers. What everyone can get. It's almost a great equalizer because every single person can get it. And if you can't, let's educate that person on getting it, which I think is very few
You
and
need an
far.
ID to buy cigarettes. You need an ID to buy alcohol. You need an ID to get into concerts. You need an ID to get into secure buildings.
Talk about it.
I mean,
if you don't have one, then you're not living. You're not
you
doing
need an
anything. You're just
ID
at
to
home.
have a job. So you're telling me what?
Yeah,
They don't
that's
have
facts.
jobs? They don't have so
Bro,
so
who
you're
does
just
it?
telling us they don't have jobs. Why don't you fix that problem then? They don't have jobs, Democrat. They don't want to highlight that. They want to cover this with the racism narrative because you can use it as a marinade, as a dressing. Guys, don't worry about the fact that why you can't get IDs. Why can't they get IDs, Saver? If it were true, why can't they get IDs? You guys are the politicians. You guys write the laws. Why can't they get their IDs?
They don't want to peel layers. You see, this is what you call honest conversation. Like Macho said, we can all get ideas. Let's keep it real. And I'm going to just ask this. Let's use some common sense. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. That's Macho. I'm Savory. It is showtime.